Hey everybody, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace to you on I don't want to say it's a solemn Saturday. It's just one of those Saturdays. We got a lot of things going on in the world, particularly in the United States. So we find ourselves at the center of civil unrest, but at the middle of awakening, if you will. So I named this show today, What Happened to America? What happened to America? I think every once in a while we have to reach down inside of ourselves and find that little kid that had hopes and inspirations that we did silly things. I tend to think that America has gotten very serious about itself because there's been a reckoning in the works for a very long time. And every once in a while you will look at who you are and what you're doing, you'll scare yourself. Example, every man has had this example. You kind of fell off your diet and not eating the right things, not exercising, and you walk in front of a mirror and you see your body and you like, who is that individual? Who is that out of shape individual? That out of shape individual is you. America finds itself out of shape. It finds itself unable to fight against some of the inequity and the unethical treatment that it has visited upon people, not only in this country, but around the world. Now, before people go, hell, you crime, no. I am in no way bashing America. America is a beautiful plan. America is a democracy, and it works well on paper. And it has worked well on paper up to this point. Now, I don't say it as a final thing. I say the fact that people have begun to ask crucial questions, if you will. And one of the things that troubles me, it doesn't trouble me, but I think all of us have to ask, what happened to America? If you grew up in the 60s, you're asking what happened to America, because a lot of what you're seeing now is things that you saw in the 60s, in the late 70s. And I'm leery to say certain things about protests because sometimes these riots do have a modality that's reminiscent of rebellion. In the old words of, it was from a play, it said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. So I find myself kind of looking around going, well, what America do we want? When I say what America, like, what kind of America do we want? And it really in the bigger scope, it's like, what do we want for ourselves in our own society? Because what's happening now is, it's a declaration. People are saying, America isn't all that. And for the last couple of years, I don't think we have been all that. Let's call it what it is. I don't think we have been all that. I don't think we've been, in some regards, ethical. It's not endemic of the people. Because you have ethical people, but our politicians, our policies have gotten us into some predicaments that we can't fathom. So when I say what happened to America, I'm talking about the America that said, listen, despite everything that's happened to you, seriously, despite everything that's happened to you, it's like, here's a better way. I'm going to give a little shout out to my brother. He always says, Walaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you feeling? I feel my hands like I always do. No, I'm just kidding, brother. Allah is God. Keep it simple. Thank you, Jay. Love that, brother. But in terms of what do we need to do here and now, and I want to say this not in terms of if you're American. I know people tune in from the UK. You're overseas. What do you see as some foundational things we need to do? One of the things I think we need to do in terms of what happened to America is we have to get back to protecting our children. Our children are suffering in ways I couldn't imagine in terms of being, quote unquote, a developed country. Our children have taken on some characteristics of third world countries in terms of how they treat it and also how they protect it. Now, this is not to say anything about the parents. The parents are going through the same situation scenario. COVID-19 is almost, it's like Ebola light here in the United States. That's what it is. It's like Ebola light. If you guys want to know about Ebola, you would be thankful just to have COVID. Ebola had like a 50 to 60% kill rate, meaning that when you got it, there was no go get your temperature checked, all of that. Go home. There was no symptom was you died. That's it. Symptom is like, hey, he ain't moving. That's a symptom, death. So, and I think the interesting thing about COVID and this scope that we're going through in regards to George Floyd is the fact that people are unsure. People unsure. Some of our institutions that we held on to for a long, long, long time, all of a sudden we find them shaky. It happens with religious people a lot of times. There are people who are extremely religious and they get into a series of events that test their faith. And it's tested in a way by when it comes out at the other end, it's not the same. Even if it's stronger, it's because it's not the same. If it's weaker, it's because it's not the same. I think we're all in that space right now. I find myself asking what happened to America because America was a space that understood the work ethic and how people come to certain situations because they come through trials and tribulations. And coming through trials and tribulations, there is something at the end. It's not a reward. It's a reality. It's a respect. So what happened in America is people stopped giving respect in a lot of regards. Now, people can say this has to do with the president. Look, all I know is, to give respect, you got to give respect. That's number one. Number two, though, respect is not given, it's earned. And number three is, respect is tied into your human condition, how you see the world, or how you see other people. Like, I can respect the man down the street, got $1 million, but I can respect the guy down the street that doesn't have $10 because there's a balance there. It just so happens that for whatever reason, that person didn't have a situation where finances found them over there, and they found them over here. And I think what happened to America, it stopped working for everybody. It literally stopped working for everybody. Literally. It literally was, we're going to get our money first and then everybody else. And I'm not even saying the poor. I'm not talking about rich and poor. I'm just talking about people in general. We got into a funnel, if you will, whereby, they was talking about these money funnels. We got into a spell, if you will. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Sister Aika. Whereby, I'm not saying we stopped caring, but we became more selfish. We swallowed the Kool-Aid in a lot of regards. We thought that as a country, we moved from American democracy to American exceptionalism. We thought our exceptionalism was going to get us everywhere we wanted to. Even when we weren't great, we figured, hey, listen, we're America. We're going to get up. And we've always been guilty of that. There's times when I've gone on stage as a comedian and I didn't 100% prepare. I might have 90% prepared. And I thought in my mind, my 90 is better than the other guy's 100%, which is foolish because you can tend to run into situations and you cheat your audience. America got in a space where it stopped working for everybody because it began to think that we are exceptional. And when you think that you're exceptional, one or two things are going to happen. One is you're going to find out that you are not exceptional. And the other thing is that you're going to delude yourself that you are. I often embrace failure because it lets me know what I need to work on. See, when you do exceptionalism in a lot of regards, people don't understand. It's an injury. It's an injury. When I say it's an injury, I mean it's not a clear one. Like the United States was injured for a very long time. We were injured with our manufacturing. We were injured with our jobs. The people who were making money in the stock market, 9 times out of 10, that didn't have to do with you. The money involved being in the stock market, you have to leave that money in almost 6 months to see the return that you're going to get, and you have to be able to be comfortable with that. Most people, I'm not saying a day to day, but they're darn sure month to month, a month every other month. If anything, COVID revealed the fact that, all of us are on the brink, myself included. And I put myself at the front of the line. However, one of the things I will tell you is that when COVID hit, there's an adjustment period, but it wasn't fear. It wasn't fear. My biggest fear is for the people around me. Because I've been through things like COVID. I've been fired before. One of my favorite stories, I was working with a big-time comedian who shall remain unnamed. He convinced me to leave teaching my teaching job. We were going to do 6 months on the road. Books. I'm booked solid. His manager, what's his name? Devil, intervened and got into a situation, told some mistruths, and all of a sudden I went from 6 months on the road, booked, to no months on the road. And my brother will tell you, I lived in his basement in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I would sit and go through my ideas and concepts with my nephew, Justin, who's a big old grown boy now, doesn't call us uncle, but that's a whole nother story. But my point is, I have learned what the bottom looked like because I was at the bottom. And sometimes our situation, what happens in America is we don't realize that there's a bottom. As great as we think we are, there's a bottom. And there are people on that bottom. And the people on the bottom, listen, they work harder than you and I can imagine. They said one of the most expensive things in the world is poverty. And to quote Bob Marley, he said, there's some people who are so poor, the only thing they have left is money. There's a thought process to that. There's a huge thought process to that. And I tend to lean in a little bit when I'm thinking about these things, because America is sort of like the NFL. You know, when I did consulting for the NFL, great job, good people over there. I had a great experience. But sometimes you got the feeling that people made mistakes and the NFL just had so much money, they didn't correct the mistakes. They just bring somebody else in, hoping they didn't make the same mistake. We're not in that situation now. You know, the enemy is not COVID, brothers and sisters. The enemy is apathy. Apathy for the individual down the street, apathy for the people that you serve. You know, it's interesting when you talk about apathy in politics, because it has to do with people picking and choosing who they're going to serve, who's not going to serve. What happened to America was the question. We got away from empathy and we moved to apathy. And apathy became a political tool. People don't like to say I'm sorry anymore. People don't like to say excuse me. People don't like to say, you know what, I don't know. Because it's a fear of it makes you weak, or it makes you look soft, or in some words that my brand said, it makes you look moist. Whatever. It is this idea that at some point in time, the truth doesn't matter. It's only about the end result. America was a country built on facts, hard work, getting you to a result. Now people don't put in the hard work. They don't care about the facts. And when they get to the end, the result, if it doesn't look like what it's supposed to, is your fault. Playing the blame game is something America has excelled at for the last, 10, 15 years. I watched, quote unquote, the first black president, Barack Obama. It wasn't a White House he was serving in. People, it looked like a jailhouse. And he was a prisoner to politics, American politics. And he spent 4 years trying to change it. Well, he spent 4 years realizing he wanted to change it. And then the other 3 or 4 years was like, I really can't change much. This is not a knock on him. This is the America that he inherited. And we forget sometimes. We forget when Barack Obama came into office, it was bottom zero. The bottom had fallen out. We had to bail out big businesses. We had to bail out banks that made inappropriate loans. We had CDOs, collateralized debt obligations, with algorithms for money that they still haven't been able to figure out to this day. And we made it a mythological situation that we got ourselves out of it, and we really didn't get ourselves out of it. I find these days that we're not having enough conversations. When I say what happened to America, you got to say, I don't know. I'm going to find out. Or the alternative is whatever happens in America, I'm going to work hard to make sure it doesn't happen again. You see, people, when you move yourself from a situation, one of the best things you can ever happen to you in life, if just for a short period of time, is to be involved in a situation where your money and your name cannot help you. Your money and your name cannot help you. What does that mean? It means that you're going to have to rely on a certain type of creativity, a certain type of ethic, a certain type of hard work that earns you, if you will, the solution that you're looking for. What happened to America is we stopped being earners. We started being entitled. And there's always a yin and yang between being a hard worker and being entitled. Being a hard worker and being entitled. Being a hard worker, being entitled. And I say this because sometimes people forget where they come from. They forget where they come from. And they become the same barriers that they were fighting against for other people, except now it's my job. It's my career. It has a certain type of value on it. This is not the America that any of us signed up for. This America is jacked up. This is an America that wealthy white folk don't want to be in. That's how bad America is right now. When white folk don't want it, you know it's a problem. So as you start to think about this today, and I wanted to keep the topic light, I know about the riots. I know about the protests. If you thought about it, we talked about it. We talked about, what are we talking about? The disenfranchisement playbook. I went through it. Every protest, every riot that you're going to have at this point in time is going to be two aspects of it: frustration and exhaustion. Because they don't change the rules, people. You don't change the rules. This behavior is not behavior management. It is behavior exploitation. We're looking for somebody to give us something that they don't have. If you want mercy from somebody that doesn't have mercy, then you're a fool. That's the same as, when you want to borrow money from somebody, who do you borrow money from somebody you think can help you. I don't go, as a rule, have you ever rolled down your window at the underpass and asked the homeless guy sleeping up under there, hey, you got $20? No. It's a cruel and a hard fact. We're in a situation, a scenario, and I say this to myself all the time. America is not home. For the black man and black woman and Native American, America is not home. There are Native Americans that lost large quantities of land over treaties that could not be enforced. And the white man gave them casinos and alcohol. The two things they can't afford to do: gamble and drink. For the black man, hey, you can be mad. Hey, mama, son, love you. Thank you for coming on the show. For the black man, there stands a situation, a scenario whereby this idea of justice is a question mark. Meaning, will you see it? Will you get it? Are you willing to fight for it? I'm going to be on a podcast. It's going to be a free Imam Jamil Alameen podcast later today. And everybody knows his story. He was H. Rap Brown. Went to prison for like 5 years, became Muslim, came out. He did the unexpected. The unexpected in this case was he came out of a prison situation, and he built the most deadliest thing that you could do. He built community. He built a community that still sustains today. Because you know why? They said that idea of America, it doesn't speak to me. And for a lot of you, America is, different than our mom and dad's America. And the reason why it's different because in our mom and dad's America, they didn't have time to sit around and point fingers. You didn't have people making labor-saving devices for you. There were no cell phones and no social media. It was an issue of honest communication. If you wanted to get information back in the day, you have to get up off your tail, go to the library, and mess with that Dewey Decimal System. Now you can sit in your house and pull books from all over the world. Now, I'm not saying you're not getting information, but there was something about a process. There was something about a procedure. There was something about a protocol, about getting information. These days, we have information overflow. We are inundated with information that means literally nothing. In my mailbox right now, in my email, I'm guaranteed almost 60% of it is spam mail. Why? Because people are interested in giving you information that suits them. What happened to America? I'll tell you what happened to America. America looked at itself and said, we ain't America no more. Corporations, we're oppressors. We are folks that do our dirt overseas and then claim that we did it for the cause of America. When we finally get found out, this is the thing that's different because, see, America, to me, had a texture. It had a texture. I was talking to my mom earlier today. I had a situation with somebody who basically shall remain unnamed. I put in the work. He didn't like the result, so he thought it was okay for, he's got to pay me, but this guy's like, well, you know, I shouldn't pay you. I'm going to, dude, stop. I'm a grown man. And that's the other thing about America. Stop treating grown men like little boys. And the only reason they treat you like little boys is because they're little boys. And that's the only way they can fight you. I've said this oftentimes. You know, the rule of law is the rule of the fool here in the United States. If you look at laws, I can tell you that they've been altered to make sure, A, number one, you stay black, or B, you stay poor. People say, what happened to America? I'm going to tell you what happened to America. America stopped winning. And when everybody knows when you stop winning, there's panic. And when you stop winning, the last thing you want to know or want to share if you're a bully is that you can't fight anymore. You're not as fast as you used to be. You don't hit as hard. America is like that puncher on a downswing. You know, I love Mike Tyson, but at a certain point in time, it was hard to watch Mike Tyson because he wasn't the Mike Tyson of old. The Mike Tyson that put in the work, that put in the training, that stayed away from the drugs, the alcohol, and the women. At least when he was training, he showed that Mike Tyson was gone. He would show up. He would intimidate you before the fight started. And then he got knocked out. And from that point, the narrative was Mike could get knocked out. And so people, when they came to fight Mike, they were like, oh, he might hit me here and there, but I got a chance for a right hand. I got a chance for a left. Or if I stick him with a jab, I might win this thing. America's been hit on the chin numerous times. You can pick out whichever one you want to. People say it's terrorism. Nah. You start a fight, you better know how to end the fight. People say it's economy. Yeah. So you can't bully people in making you rich. And you can't bully people into staying poor. And you can't bully people into not thinking. See, the idea of African American and a Native American and a Latino American is we have the idea of home. We have the idea of security. We know what positivity looks like in our own spaces. And when we look around the world, we say, what happened to America? We say, it's just not there anymore. Now, today, I am going to, inshallah, end on time. Because what happened to America is we don't talk anymore. And I'm going to get off this podcast, and I'm going to call a loved one, and we're going to laugh. And I'm not going to worry about America today. You know why? Because America ain't what it used to be. Inshallah, to get better. Take care of yourself, everybody. Stay safe. Stay strong. Stay blessed. Hug somebody. Love somebody. Allah is God. Keep it simple.